Welcome to this presentation, Staying Well at LSBU, which is for new international students. My name's Lisa, and it's great to be here. For many of the students watching this, living in the UK is a new experience. We're so happy to have you here. There are so many amazing opportunities for you, and we really want you to thrive at LSBU. However, we know that new systems can be hard to navigate, and life might not always be what you expect. Some of your expectations might come from stereotypes about British people and life in the UK. Things like we drink lots of tea and that it rains a lot. You might find some of these stereotypes to be true. I certainly know I drink a lot of tea. However, lots of things about British culture and indeed about LSBU might come as a surprise. We want you to reach your goal of graduating, and we want you to be prepared for whatever comes next. We also know that for all sorts of reasons, things often don't go to plan. So whilst you study here at LSBU, we want you to feel confident and connected to information and support, and to know that you're not alone. By the end of this session, you'll be much clearer about what you can expect from the LSBU community and how we approach some important topics that we think are key to your success as a student here. This includes positive mental health, achieving your potential, being confident about money, being safe and looking out for each other. Let's get started. So we believe everyone has the right to positive mental health. Maybe you've heard of mental health before, maybe not. Different countries and cultures have very different definitions of mental health. At LSBU, we use this definition by the World Health Organization. So mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realise their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their community. Everyone has mental health, just like everyone has physical health. Some people have a mental health diagnosis, for example, depression. Some people have a physical health diagnosis, just like diabetes. Regardless of this, all of us will experience times where our mental health isn't at its best, and it might become hard to cope or to learn. Just like sometimes we all catch the flu, or have a cough, or trip over and end up with a bruise. It's really normal to talk about mental health in the UK, and whilst you study here, you can expect to have conversations about mental health with lots of people, including your personal tutors, your peers and other students, your colleagues in your workplaces, the support staff here at LSBU, and also medical professionals. Now, we know there are some challenges that students in the UK, particularly international students, might experience. This can include challenges like pressure to succeed, the difficulty balancing studying whilst working and other caring responsibilities, financial stress, housing difficulties, loneliness, and often challenges back in your home country. We know that challenges like these can have a big impact on your mental health and can make it harder to cope with day-to-day life and to focus on your learning. For all of these experiences, there is support available at LSBU. We'll talk more about what that support is and how to access it later. First, let's take a look at some of the signs that you might benefit from support. So some of these signs might seem more obvious than others. However, they are all warning signs that you would benefit from some type of support. There are some things that aren't on the list, and really the idea is that if ever you notice that you're struggling to cope, we'd really encourage you to seek support. Some of the things on this list, things like low mood or frequent worry or panic, might feel easier to acknowledge and talk about, whereas other things like hearing or seeing things that other people don't seem to, or using drugs or alcohol, or intentionally causing yourself injury might feel harder to acknowledge and talk about with others. Again, we always encourage you to come and seek support. We also know that sometimes mental health can be talked about as meaning that you're weak or that you're attention seeking, that you're cursed or possessed, that it's shameful and that you should keep it hidden, or that you can't study or work. At LSBU, we don't believe these things. Remember, we all have mental health and we all face hard times, and we all sometimes need a bit of advice and support to help us reach our goals. In Britain, you'll frequently be asked, "How are you?" as part of a greeting. Most of the time, people aren't expecting you to give lots of detail, just something simple like "good thanks," or "I'm all right," or "not bad." It's important you know that you can be honest about how you're feeling and about what's going on in your life. And if you're not sure who to talk to, you can always come and talk to the LSBU Mental Health and Wellbeing team. We've got your back. We offer non-judgmental and confidential listening, advice and support. Here's a picture of some of our team. We also have other people in our team, and we're available to all LSBU students for the whole time you study with us. If you do come to talk to us, here's a little bit about what you can expect. So we'll always listen to you and we'll help you to understand your options. We'll help you to develop coping strategies and also to remember the strategies you already have and use. We can refer you to counselling or to other specialist support if you want us to, and we can help you speak to your course team and get academic support if you want us to. What won't happen? So we won't tell your family, your friends, your academic team, or anyone else about anything you tell us unless you want us to, or if we're really concerned about your safety, in which case we might have to share information with, for example, a doctor. So your visa is not going to be impacted if you talk to us. You're not going to be kicked out of LSBU. Your grades are not going to be negatively impacted, and no information about what you tell us will go on your university records or be shared with any future employers. If you want to talk to us, there's a few ways you can do this. The easiest is to book an appointment through my account. If you're having any trouble with that, you can always email us at studentwellbeing@lsbu.ac.uk. You can also use my account to send us an inquiry. So if you think you'd like a bit of advice but don't need an appointment, feel free to contact us that way. An additional note is that if you're in halls, you can access Thrive, which is a support service specifically for students in LSBU accommodation. They listen and provide advice and support if you want them to, and they can also help you connect with other services like the main mental health and wellbeing team. They have an Instagram page where you can find more information about how to contact them, or you can call the numbers on the screen or email them. If you'd rather speak to someone from a faith perspective, then multi-faith support is for you. The multi-faith support team provide a listening ear to all LSBU students, regardless of what faith you might follow or whether you follow a faith at all. They provide one-to-one support as well as running a range of events through the year. You can scan the QR code to check out the frequently asked questions on my account for more information. If you are someone who's looking to explore and develop your faith, there's other opportunities at LSBU too. You can always get involved with the faith societies and communities that are run by the LSBU Students' Union. You can check out the local places of worship, or you can check out the prayer and reflection spaces on campus. Again, the QR code will give you much more information. The next thing we're going to talk to you about is that we believe everyone has the right to achieve and reach their potential. In the UK, students are entitled to adjustments and additional support if they have a disability or a learning difference. This is enshrined in UK law and also applies to employees in any workplaces. So the key thing to remember is that if there are any barriers to your learning, we want to remove them. And in order for us to do this, we need you to tell us about whatever's going on. But what even are disabilities? Well, the UK defines a disability as a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial or long-term impact on your ability to carry out day-to-day activities. This is a very broad definition, and there are lots of things that can be considered a disability. Things like migraines, diabetes, HIV, autism, sickle cell anemia. To be clear, there are many other disabilities that aren't on this list. You might be familiar with some of these and not with others, and that's okay. We all have more to learn, and LSBU is a place where everyone is encouraged to be open to new information and take time to learn about others' experiences. We know that the systems and environments can create barriers for people living with disabilities, and our aim is always to remove these so that people can reach their full potential. For example, an autistic student may struggle to engage with conversations and therefore be less able to participate in group work. This student would be entitled to adjustments and additional support, for example, a support worker who could help them communicate with other students, or a mentor who helps them develop their conversation skills, or they would also be entitled to do an individual project if this helps them demonstrate their understanding and skills better. Specific learning differences are differences with a particular aspect of learning. Some examples are dyslexia, dyspraxia, and ADHD. Dyslexia impacts 1 in 10 people in the UK, and it primarily impacts how people process information. That can cause difficulties with reading, spelling, and writing. There are many strengths to having dyslexia, but we also know that some of the systems in place make it difficult for students with dyslexia to display their learning. So students with dyslexia are entitled to additional time, considerate marking, and assistive technology. If you have a disability or a specific learning difference, we have a team at LSBU who are dedicated to making sure that you have any adjustments and support that you are entitled to. This team is called the Disability and Dyslexia Support Team. If you have an appointment with them, it will involve talking to a disability advisor about how your studies are impacted by your situation. It will also involve getting information about the adjustments and support you are eligible to access. Some of these include uncapped late submissions, additional time for exams, access to assistive technology, specialist study skills tutors and/or mentors, screening and assessments for dyslexia, and applying for disabled students allowance, which is a financial reward. We also know there are lots of myths about disabilities and learning differences, and that these can stop people from accessing support. Here are some of the most common myths that impact the LSBU community. You can always see when someone is disabled. Being disabled means you are unfavoured by a higher power. Being disabled means you are cursed or possessed. Disclosing a disability will mean you don't get the same opportunities as others. Disclosing a disability will mean you don't get good grades or a job. If you tell us about a disability, we'll tell other people. To be clear, all of these are false. Now, we know there are big differences across the world in how disabilities are perceived and spoken about, and this means for many of our international students, LSBU might be the first time you have access to screening, assessment, and support. We really want to see you succeed, so please do complete our dyslexia screening if you notice that you are finding reading, writing, or spelling challenging. You can scan the QR code on the left-hand side of the screen to find out more about the screening. You can also come to a drop-in if you have questions about specific learning differences or neurodiversity, particularly how this impacts learning styles and strategies that can help. If you have any sort of long-term health condition or disability that you haven't already told us about, please do get in touch by sending an inquiry on my account or by booking an appointment with the Disability and Dyslexia Support Team. You can also email us at disability@lsbu.ac.uk. Moving on, this section is really important. We believe that everyone has the right to be safe and to be treated with respect at LSBU. Everyone has a part to play in keeping the LSBU community safe, and part of this is telling us if you notice behaviour that is disrespectful or puts someone in danger. We know that people have different ways of doing things, different ways of expressing themselves, and different beliefs and viewpoints. As a member of the LSBU community, we expect you to celebrate diversity and to treat everyone with dignity and respect, even if you have differences. In the UK, the law protects you from being discriminated against due to any of these protected characteristics: age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage or civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion and belief, sex, or sexual orientation. The law also protects you from harassment. Harassment is never okay. Harassment is unwanted behaviour in relation to one of the protected characteristics that has the purpose or effect of violating someone's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment. It's important to note that this is about the effect of a behaviour, not the intent. Some examples of harassment are frequent attempts to contact someone, for example by turning up at their home, their place of work, or their place of study, or frequently messaging them via texts, emails, or social media. Abusive messages or speech, threats, or damaging someone's property. All of this behaviour is unacceptable and illegal, and alcohol is absolutely never an excuse. Sexual violence is also never okay. When it comes to any sexual activity, from looking to touching to penetrative sex, unless it's an enthusiastic yes, it's a no. And any unwanted sexual behaviour is called sexual violence. This includes touching without consent, pressuring someone to do sexual things, coercing or bribing someone into sex, for example, with money, sharing or threatening to share explicit photos or videos, indecent exposure, including cyber flashing, sexual comments, jokes or gestures, and intrusive staring. And again, alcohol is never an excuse. If you do experience or notice any disrespectful behaviour, including harassment or sexual violence, but also things like bullying or discrimination, we encourage you to tell us about it by logging it on Report and Support, a website just for the LSBU community. After logging an incident, you'll be contacted by a specialist student liaison officer. They will make sure you know all of your options for reporting and for accessing support. There's no pressure and no judgment, and you're always in control of what happens next. The student liaison officer can help you get extra support at university if you need it, and this relationship can last as long as you want it. It could be a one-off conversation, or it could be support that lasts for years. This is also a confidential support service. There's no impact on your grades or your employment opportunities. We also want you to feel confident looking out for each other. So if you notice a behaviour that is disrespectful, there are ways you can support. The 4 Ds are ways of remembering how you can be an active bystander if you notice disrespectful behaviour. You can always try to distract the perpetrator. This could be something as simple as spilling a drink or making a loud noise or changing the topic of conversation. If you feel safe, you could directly call out the behaviour. If it's a friend, you could say something as simple as, "Hey, they feel really uncomfortable, you shouldn't say that." If you don't feel safe, but you think behaviour needs to be interrupted, then we'd recommend that you delegate. This means getting someone else involved. So you can always contact LSBU security if you're on campus, or the emergency services by calling 999. And the final thing you can do is delay. So you can always go back and check on the person who was on the receiving end of the disrespectful behaviour. You can make sure they know about Report and Support, and you can listen to them. To be clear, LSBU students who engage in behaviour that threatens to or does harm anyone else may be suspended or excluded. And remember, alcohol is never an excuse. Now, we know that socialising can be strange, particularly when everyone is trying to get to know each other and there are lots of different cultures, expectations and norms. That's why we recommend completing the Consent Matters module on Moodle. It will help you develop communication skills and the confidence to notice and safely intervene if someone else is in trouble. We also know that socialising can be really expensive and that conversations about money can be awkward. However, we believe everyone should feel confident managing money. And if something doesn't feel right, we encourage you to come and talk to us. So you all have your own financial situations and you'll all be funding your studies in different ways, probably either from your family or from employment. You'll also all be spending money in different ways, although mostly students spend their money on rent and bills, food, hygiene products, clothing and other day-to-day items, hobbies and social events, and supporting family. We know there are some challenges that come with these things. For example, sometimes your circumstances might change and your family can no longer support you financially. Or sometimes employers put pressure on you to work more and more hours, which can impact your studies. Sometimes landlords increase the rent unexpectedly, which is why it's really important to have a contract that gives you legal rights. In the UK, we often avoid talking about money, and it can be considered rude to ask questions about money in most settings, including between friends, classmates, and colleagues. But we also know money can cause stress, and that's why we have a dedicated team of financial experts. Please don't hesitate to come and speak to the student advice team if you're having any issues with money at any time during your studies. They can help with budgeting, which is a money plan. They can help with maximising your income, international visa issues, avoiding scams, debt, and gambling. Speaking of scams, students are always targeted by retailers with loads of discounts and fabulous offers. Unfortunately, this means students are also targeted by scammers, meaning people that steal your money through illegal means, including by telling you that you're signing up for something that doesn't exist. It's important to be really cautious and remember, if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. Be suspicious of get-rich-quick schemes, including crypto and gambling. Be suspicious of offers that involve you sharing your bank details or clicking on links. And be suspicious of loans, including from seemingly legitimate companies and from people you know personally. You'll also be targeted with offers on gambling sites. Gambling can be really exciting, and there's lots of reasons you might get involved. However, it can also lead to harm. So if you recognise that you or someone else is experiencing gambling-related harm, remember there's support. You can always come and talk to us. You can book an appointment with the student advice team through my account, or you can send an inquiry or email us at studentlife@lsbu.ac.uk. You should have received one of these cards when you collected your ID. This card gives a brief summary of the main safety information. If you haven't already got one, you can get one from any reception desk in any LSBU building. We'd recommend putting it at the back of your card and taking a picture on your phone. This way, you'll always know how to get help if you need it. This is the end of the session, but just a final reminder that if you've got anything going on that you're unsure about or want some confidential advice and support with, you can send an inquiry or you can book an appointment with any of the support teams via my account. And also a reminder to look out for each other and the wider LSBU community. Tell us if you notice anything that doesn't seem right. Best of luck with all of your studies, and remember, you're never alone.